Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Tuesday, June 3rd at 11:47 p.m. It is June, halfway through the year. Well, more towards half of this month would be halfway through the year, but uh, it is getting towards the second half of the year, and things are going to be favorable this year. It is mathematically the way things must play out for bills to get paid. And we've had our patience for the last couple of years. Finally got our way halfway through 2025. We're starting to see all the technical data start to line up. Obviously, it is a precarious set of technical data, but that's the reality of what we're looking for. When we're looking for our particular market of interest to outperform, we're looking for the precarious realities of the overall economic construct to come to a tipping point where certain activities need to be engaged to stabilize the overall global economy that happens to be a favorable backdrop for the investments that we choose. Isn't that an awkward reality for our investments to outperform? The overall foundation of global economics needs to look like shit. One, I don't make the rules is a valid statement. Two, that is an unfortunate manifestation of just economic reality. Um, could also say that it's the result of us understanding how the system works, because most people walk around out there not understanding how anything works. And they're like, okay, something's going up, something's going down. They don't really understand why things go up or why things go down. Maybe the only reason we have these biases because we do understand why things are going up and why things are going down. So when we see stuff like the yen rally and we're like, why is the stock market coming down? It's because of a carry trade unwind. Or if foreign currencies are broadly appreciating and we see the DXY coming down, why is crypto going up? Okay, because foreign currency is appreciating and there's much more foreign currency. The reality is we're probably just biased beyond belief or beyond average comprehension. And that makes us maybe the worst possible person to assess how prepared we are. But we're the only person who can, who is responsible for our own actions. The point there is, who do you turn to evaluate your choices and how well you've done? How do you measure your successes and your failures? I don't know. Fortunately, there is one true statement above it all. This game is scored in dollars. It's That's it. And I guess you either have more or less, but there's more to it than that because there's a psychological aspect to it because we are humans. So you can have more or less dollars, but how well rounded are you as a human? How stable are you as a human? Are you happy? Have you met your expectations? Are you calm, cool, and collected? Because let's say you made a lot of money, but holy shit, you have a lot of anxiety and you don't know how you made a lot of money, and you're probably going to lose it because you only made it because of excess risk. And then you have to really realize for oneself that that's not necessarily a good position to be in. I guess that's the whole point of this stream. Little to no risk, maximum calm, cool, collected. And the cash flow is a manifestation of what it is. Just is what it is. You're gonna get what you're gonna get. There's very little greed in the way I've looked at markets and encouraged other people to look at markets. That's it's like what I say, um, more money, prosperity, less money, austerity. We're at the mercy of markets, and that's really the the true face of a cash flow portfolio, where there's no action we can take to improve our prosperity, as it is with trading. You can put on more leverage, and if you get the directionality right, there's more prosperity. It comes at the expense of other persons, but that's just nitpicking, isn't it? We started, we ended last week with the DXY in pretty interesting territory, and we still remain in that interesting territory right up against the weekly 100. Obviously, we are above it. And the last week on a Friday, we were below it. And this is the third time it has slightly wicked below. We push back up again. Curve at 70 cents. Structurally, this just is a lovely chart. Just the double inverse head and shoulders and above the weekly 10 SMA. It looks like at some point we'll be interacting with the weekly 50 yet again, and that's at like a buck 16. First off, a buck 16 is a hell of a price, given we were at 18 cents on curve, which is 6x, 600% higher than all-time lows. Okay, I don't know what folks' expectations are, and I'm not really the best person to be critical of other person's extraordinary and lofty expectations, but holy fuck. If we get back to a buck 16, you're talking 600% from bottom. 600%? That is an extraordinary percentage. 600%. I can't help folks with their greed. But to me, when I hear 600%, that is an insane number. And the thing that I find comfort in is 600% from bottom just brings us to the 50 SMA on the weekly. And I'm like, okay, let's bump it up a little bit. See at 6,000%. Another 10x from there. Because that's generally my reasonable expectations. Is that is that awkward? Because I think that's reasonable. Like I'm not exuberant or anything. Like all right, fine, $6. That's cool. We were at 18 cents. That's 3,000% from 20 cents. $6. I think that is quite a reasonable start to some sort of constructive price action. Then you break above and you retest. And depending where we are and overall global conditions, break out and then a retest and maybe a higher high at like $10. And then you get some disgusting blow off top. I don't know how things play out relative to the historic hyperinflationary decay or the start of it. This chart data just is stuck there for all eternity, apparently. This is from Binance data. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really care where top is. But I do see the break in 6 because that's just all-time high. And of all things, to retest all-time high, it all does. Everything retests well, everything infrastructure with some sort of systemic importance. Always going to be a fun one. Bit of a cup in hand. That's like a V-shaped recovery right there. I don't know. It's just so early. It's 2021, 2020. Obviously, an Aave token compared to a Len token, and really an Aave, a modern Aave market compared to a Len market in 2019. Point being, Aave is now a presence in from a banking standpoint. And you're talking $4 billion market cap. It's like a micro cap bank. I don't know where the potential is for this thing. I don't know because that's dependent on like deposits. I think cash flow to deposits is an interesting metric. Where was I? I was hearing about that. Where was I hearing about that? Fees and revenue, holder revenue. It's not what I really want to see. Like I want to see, what would be a great dashboard is like dollars per, like dollars per hype, dollars per arrow, dollars per bar. Bar is up there. We know dollars per VECRV because that has been around since before almost so many things on this list. I wouldn't mind seeing that. That'd be a very interesting chart. Maybe I'll ping them, see if we could aggregate that data because it gives a definition, but it's not quite what I think is most valuable to persons. Like the title of today's stream was are you buying anything? Have you bought anything? Because the whole point of all this is to understand how to acquire and accumulate over time a cash flow positive portfolio, portfolio of productive property, so to speak. So how do you do that? You need your data. And now obviously prior to 2025, we would do this manually. We would inspect what are the potential protocols, and then we would, see how much um, how much rental there is on a particular LP, or how much an LP is particularly paying, one side or the other from a V33 or a voter escrow type arrangement, and we would do some calculations. Um, but I would really like to see that in tabular form. That would really give us some nostalgia for what we had to do between 2022 and 2025 to really set up some sort of a decently constructed portfolio based on at least some data, not just winging it. Just, like we do have a little bit of data. You go over to Curve Hub. Yeah. So I believe this takes into account Broad Market V2 and obviously base VECRV. So 11.67% on VECRV. It's nothing to sneeze at. And that's what I posted, where I posted a poll. Look at it. It's five, 24 people. Okay. You got a couple of people that get it. So there's a couple of people, probably few, 8.3% to three people per at the 10%, the 20%. Which do you buy more of? You don't buy more of the high paying API. This is why everyone fucks up their portfolio and loses all their money because they're always like, oh, I'm going to buy as much of the highest paying risk I could get my hands on. And then you got 30% of the people that don't know what the fuck's going on. They're like, buy APR, buy cash flow, buy yield, buy a salary. And it's like rewind to 2022 for those stories. And folks really need to start from the beginning. If they clicked that button and 30% of people, that's eight people click that button. But then the 30% here, which was more, which was 12 people, obviously a very small sample set, are the high risk takers, and that's how you lose your money. So what you want to do is you want to buy the most of the lowest paying cash flow, because that is usually the best risk adjusted cash flow, and that's overwhelmingly 11.67%, like a curve. And if we go over here, we go over to Velo, and look at these numbers. But it's volatile, and the principal is extremely volatile. I mean, if you look at the Velo chart compared to the curve chart, it's not a beautiful setup in comparison. It's just highly volatile. And that's basically the experience. There's Velo. Let's take a look. That's even more volatility. That's just a complete retrace, double bottom. So it's just starting these types of cycles. And this is this type of thing that may present itself like Velo where you get these big spikes and then a full retrace, big spike, full retrace. Let's go back and look at Velo. Velo. That was I'll talk about a full retrace, big spike, full retrace, big spike, full retrace, and now we're at full retrace. And none of that looks anything like what Curve has been through because it's a full retrace, but it's already there's a structure to this that's very unique. It's this that I find quite fascinating. This period right here. It's very different than anything that's presented on these charts. There's so much structure here. It's not just, a bottoming pattern where it's starting to push above a 10 SMA on the weekly, because that's clearly what it's doing. Or you have literally a rejection of the 50 SMA on the weekly. And so you have this compression between these two. You have this compression between these two MAs, between the 50 and the 10. I mean, there's just none of that structure when you look at like a velodrome or you look at even an aerodrome. There's none of that structure. It looks basically the same thing as velodrome. 50 cents. It's a nice bottom there. 28 cents. Flight school is what, 40 something percent right now? I think I saw the headline coming in at $456 million at a market cap that is very, very high. Ramsey's up 106% over the last 24 hours. That's a spike off the bottom. Oh, was it V3? I mean, Ramsey's was the original. I don't know. 4 mil market cap. Somehow, I've never been down on, Ramsey's from a principal standpoint. I think I bought it like 800K market cap when I took that original position. I don't even remember when it was. It was one of these. I don't even know. Point being, man, cash was so dead on Ramsey's. Need a little something. Do I have really $1,200 saved up? All right. I'm not complaining. All right. I haven't claimed it in, I think, like, I don't even know, 2 months. It's been a long time, but I don't even really want to claim it. It's RAM denominated, so I get half this. I get like $600 because I'm not going to sell my RAM. Compound, be a good market participant. But Linnea and Nile, have you seen the consensus headlines? There's some interesting headlines what consensus is up to, and frankly, Nile pays fairly well. Where's the percentage? 40%. So depending on your position size, it's the same thing with voter escrow curve rentals. You have a small position size, you could get 330% if you're going to get like $50 for the week. But if you have any relatively large position size, you can't vote on something that has a $270 worth of rewards and need a larger vote rental. I tend to go for the 40.7. Same thing happens here on Velodrome. It's like you could only really vote on USDC WETH. The ink rentals haven't come through yet. The ink rentals are 16.7. All right, they're lower this week. 25. All right, these are nice. I wonder if these are going to be the same numbers. It's Tuesday. We'll know tomorrow. Because the ink is, where are they? It says all OP mainnet. What's going on there? What is that? What's going on? Where's ink OP mainnet? Here they are. I got a good feeling about Kraken. I'm just saying. I don't want to get my expectations elevated. I don't want to let my expectations get high, but I have a good feeling about Kraken because space has set a precedent, has set a tone for what Kraken probably wants to do or should want to do. And that leads us to all roads lead to Velodrome from an optimistic superchain standpoint. Anywho, okay. Fugu, good morning. Ramses rises. Yeah, how about that? I noticed that as well. I think I just talk about that to probably the best extent that I possibly can. V3, very interesting. Um, I mean, obviously, Shadow is not part of the kingdom, um, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe is there a distinction between this type of user interface and what V3 from a kingdom standpoint looks like? Because obviously, Nile has had a rebranded user interface, and we'll see what V3 brings to Ramses if it could gain any traction on Arbitrum. You go over to the fees revenue. Huh, volume. Seems like they changed the hierarchy a little bit. So we go over to volume and we go over to Arbitrum. Does that say Maverick? It's 30-day DEX volume, 775 mil. Oh, okay. Why is Maverick up there on Arbitrum? That's awkward. And Ramses is dying down at 259 compared to at one point Ramses had better volume than Uniswap. I don't know what the hell. Uniswap pulled ahead significantly. But then you go over to Optimism, and there's your Velodrome sitting on top of Uniswap. But look at the volume on Arbitrum compared to Optimism. Optimism has 30 mil on Velodrome, but Arbitrum has 344 mil on Uniswap. So whatever the hell is going on, Arbitrum is probably the place to think about, at least more so than Optimism. So Optimism, you know, there's only one thing to own on Optimism, in my opinion, and that's Velodrome. Great. Once you have your exposure, you're done. You have it in, you have your position. It's acquired, and you put it the horse in the stable from a more active, a larger, an increasingly active environment where there's potentially decisions to be made. I would say is Arbitrum. That is much more volume, 560 mil compared to 42 mil. Definitely some things to be considered there. Base, the only thing investable in base is Aerodrome. So we know those numbers. And Vexy as well as OpenX Swap. You can see what inventory is available. If you're looking at Velodrome or Airdrome, you might as well look at Vexy. Velodrome has 31% discount, 358,000. Not that bad. 30% discount. You might as well get the flight school though. I thought I saw flight school at 47%. But then I wonder how diluted those can get because can it take a $50,000 deposit flight school? I don't know. Whereas this is you're gonna get a 31% discount. I happen to like this user interface. I think they've definitely one upped OpenX Swap, and because they obviously surface it. Either you have a deposit on Vexy, but they're also servicing or surfacing the NFTs available on OpenX Swap. That's about it. There's nothing else over here. It's not like you go over to Linnea and there's nothing from a Line XV Nile standpoint. You go over to Arbitrum, nothing from a VRAM standpoint. Is there? There's no mantle. I don't know. That's it. So there's nothing. There's Phantom. There's no Sonic. It seems like they're lagging behind. Maybe they've stopped, which is happens to all too often with protocols. Discount 31%. It's a large NFT. 358,000, not bad. Anywho, Leandro, GoPros, good morning. Much a pleasure. Take a look at recent DEX volume surge on Binance Smart Chain. Let's see. 13 bill. Jesus, what the fuck? That's not just a DEX volume surge. Holy shit. And it's all Pancake. I don't know. How the hell is Pancake out 13 billion and Uniswap 726? I don't know about these numbers. Got some wash trading going on. I don't know about anything going on over here. All I know is Thana coming in at number 3. I got a couple bucks saved up over here. Oh, okay. I'll take the UI. I'll take the new UI. Um, Dashboard, vote. Okay, I like it. Ah, the legacy. So they did current epoch, and then your legacy rewards are here. I got a couple bucks saved up that I haven't claimed. Voting history. Well, let's look at the voting real quick and see what it's coming in at. I don't want to sort. I want to sort by total rewards. Ah, things are sluggish. Only $10,000 in FBNB. I mean, that's the only real thing you could vote on if you have any decent size of a position. You're cutting it close with this tarot here. You end up getting diluted, and you end up getting 20% anyway as it dilutes. I don't know. It's probably like 50 bucks, 75 bucks. I don't when they first got traction on Binance. Ooh, that was some nice cash flow at one point. All right, 120 mil. That's nothing to sneeze at. Okay, yeah, but that's the whole point. Exposure. We have our exposure. That's why I wish if you go over to fees revenue and holder revenue, I wish I had more information. It's like how many dollars per epoch per week, most likely, are you getting per DE pancake? I don't give a shit about. I appreciate the holder revenue. I'm like, all right, it's passing it through. How much are you paying me? That's the only calculation I give a shit about. How much are you paying? And that's how you decide basically the title of the stream, which is have you met your cash flow goals? The only way to know if you met your cash flow goals is to know how much you're actually buying. So if you buy 10 grand and you buy a 30% type shit, you get 3 grand a year. Is that your cash flow goal? Divide by 12. You're talking about divided by 10 would be 300. It's like 260, 250 a month. So you invest 10 grand and you're making $250 a month. Okay, if you have a car bill to pay, you can pay a car bill by purchasing $10,000 worth of a salary, which will pay you $250 a month, which will pay your car bill. That's the way you can think about these types of things. So the way I think about these types of things, I'm like, I want to buy some cash flow and how much does it cost? And that's dependent on the rate of return. And the rate of return, you must respect your risk tolerance, volatility on principle. I mean, frankly, I don't really give a shit about too much about volatility on principle. Volatility, I care about continued existence. I don't really give a shit if the principal goes down much as long as the cash flow stays up. But then again, if the cash flow stays up, the odds are the principal is not going to depreciate too much and you won't have too much volatility. So there's a whole lot of considerations. Like for instance, if the cash flow stays up and you're getting paid the $300 a month, let's say, Do you give a shit if the 10 grand turns into 5 grand? You can't claim it anyway. It should be locked because you bought an annuity of sorts where you get the $300 a month and that cost $10,000. So you purchased the $300 a month salary. So the point is, I wouldn't really give a shit about the 10. It's worth 5. Who cares? I want the 300 a month. I don't, I would never intend to sell that principal. It was a purchase, not a position. Anyway, you know my opinion on that topic. Pithra High, thoughts on Ram Pump? Not much thoughts. V3. They um they mentioned V3. Did I repost that? I did not repost that. I thought I did. I thought I did. Anywho, oh, Spritz. Spritz came out with that card, by the way. Heck of a product Spritz has become over these years. If you're not using Spritz, I don't know what you're using. Like if why would you ever use like a Coinbase or an exchange? I don't understand. Doesn't make any sense. Uh, What's the point of going to a bank account unless you have like accounting requirements that require um, audit trail or reconciliation against statements? It's the only reason you deposit into a bank account. But if you're spending, use a damn debit, and this is that debit card. Crazy. So I definitely getting a kick out of this new debit card. Yeah, V3 announcement. The V3 announcement has been a long time in the making, but didn't they post that? Yeah, Ramses V3, 15 hours ago. I mean, it had a market cap of like two and a half. It being up 100% at a 2.5 mil market cap is not big buys. That does not require a lot of capital to move that liquidity like that. It's just not a lot of liquidity. So you can pump it 100%. Probably like 100 grand worth of buys that pumped it 100%. Aerodrome. Well, I think we talked about Aerodrome enough. Vexy. I would never buy spot. Always buy secondhand. There's always a discount to be had. I mean, look at these 30%, 31, 29, 28. That's some nice numbers. And if we go over here, let me go over to crypto. You go over to Arrow. You'll see the volatility is just as bad as Velodrome. It's just as bad as the Kingdom assets because it's a VE33. You're down at 54 cents. You're up at about 100% off bottom. I mean, a 30% discount at 28 cents is a lot better than a 30% discount at 55 cents. But frankly, 55 cents, and you got 31% discount here. It's a nice little NFT to potentially snag. Um, don't have Aerodrome in my link. Lock, no boat. No boat. Click, click. Damn, 590,000. That's a lot of rewards. You could have a nice position and get paid solid 37%. Huh. Even here, 158,000 on virtuals. Who the fuck's buying that shit? My God. 40 and enough to make 40% APR. Listen, all this does is prove, oh my God, people will buy it. Absolute dog shit. I mean, this is just base. There we, I wish it was an aerodrome or a velodrome. Where the hell is Solve 3 and Solana? What the heck are those guys doing even? What are they even doing? They're not live yet. Where's my damn airdrop. May 2nd, last month. Millions are being lost to unstable liquidity and talk about retweeting a hype-filled post. Nothing. May, May, May. Yeah, okay, that's a very great statement. Retweeting Solana. Where the hell does the damn drop? Nothing. Silence. Anyway, airdrop's a nice purchase. The only reason I can't buy it is because it's only base, and that's such an isolated market. You're getting no free expansion. You're getting no free growth. I mean, literally, the biggest difference is it's a very, very active market. So if you go back here and you'll see it's 590,000. I mean, this, this is some nice numbers. Like all the way down at the 10th position is 37,000. And then you go over to Velodrome. You're talking about the 10th position is almost as much cash as highest position on Velodrome. Huh. That's some nice cash flow. And if you get a 30% discount, it's not that bad. Okay. That's got me thinking, considering the price point. Let's go back here. Not bad considering the price point. The volatility doesn't, I don't mind that too much. I don't even mind too much 100% off the bottom, considering where we are in the market, because this looks like a nice deviation to the downside, an aberration. So there's a decent average price. Hits a couple of points over here, a couple of wicks through, and then a breakdown, and then a retest to the upside. So this is what I see. This is what catches my eye. So I happen to like this positioning. All right, maybe. Anyway, I'm just thinking 29%, not bad. I don't know if I would want to spend that much. I don't know, but what's the point? 38. Since it also depends on how much capital you have available, what your goals are, your expectations, your position size. I I could buy the 38, but I also need the 38. I got to finish paying this roof. So how do you know whether to spend or to not spend? Do you need to own everything? It's such an isolated market. I always hated that. But we've looked over the numbers and it clearly pays. And it could easily, you could absorb the cash flow of a nice 200, a 358,000 lock. That'll pay you. There'll be no dilution on this guy, 590. You'll get paid 37.88%. Probably dilute down to like 36, 35%, give or take, after you have vote allocation. But damn. Okay, that's something to consider. Something to look at. I just I like the exposure that Velodrome offers so much more. And that's your greater risk. You have a less mature market. Inc is basically not mature at all, especially compared to base. And it's the speculation. Does Inc become what base is? And did you buy Velodrome at a 90% discount compared to Aerodrome? And then Velodrome rips 10x on the money, and you get these half a mil weekly cash flow sources at 40% APR that you bought at a 90% discount. And there's your risk component of capital allocation. I was also thinking about resupply, which has performed very well. I have been thinking about a little bit of an allocation. Yeah, resupply and Aerodrome have caught my eye. These nice numbers, nice higher lows. It's been a couple of months. decent market cap, less than 10 mil market cap. I don't know about a volatile LP. I would do more of like a vote lock. Go figure. 64%. Not bad. 64%. I mean, 64% is actually better than the velodrome, the aerodrome. This is paying 30%. So 64% is actually twice, pretty much, cash flow of the higher paying LPs on aerodrome. So I had resupply as mainnet. So me personally, I'd rather have mainnet exposure than base. So look, we were just talking and I was expressing a sentiment about adding or acquiring aerodrome exposure. And I'm like, oh, along comes resupply, and those are significantly better numbers. Huh, significantly better numbers at a significantly better market cap. 10 mil market cap compared to $500 million market cap. Also, you have liquidity. Reload. Go to dashboard. Oh, this is not loading. This is the wrong one. Yeah, this one's loading. Earn. Huh. Anyhow, 97 mil. That's a lot. So already 35 mil bold with the V2 relaunch. That was quick. That's nice to see. That's it. What was I? Well, I was looking at Llama Lend too, but you're on Llama Lend, you're going over to Convex anyway. 20, no, no one's lending against UWU. All right, so you're talking about 11 and change percent. What was it? Then you go over to Arbitrum. There was some lending on Arbitrum. There was some nice numbers. Yeah, look at these nice numbers. Huh. Oh, that's 73% on the borrow. 20%. 20% if you have some hmm, if you have some VECRV, but if you go over here, uh there's no convex on Arbitrum, is there? Oh, yeah, it's convex. 27%. And here's your Llama Lend vaults 20. Hmm, why is it not showing? Oh, his main net or Fractal. So they don't have Arbitrum. Convex is just Fractal. Stake Curve LP. It's nothing, basically nothing interesting in Arbitrum. Uh, no. So you would have to go direct. You're talking about 20%, 8.21 to 20%, 9%, 10%, 20% on WBTC. That's pretty cool. WETH is literally just a flat 19%. That's pretty cool. But then it comes back to the equation that RSUP 64%. It's much higher than Aerodrome. How do you make these choices? I don't know. Oh, this is when I find myself in this kind of situation where I'm thinking about these things, I just do nothing. I'm like, all right, it's got to be the hardest thing. It is the hardest thing to make an acquisition because when you make an acquisition, you got to be confident and you got to stick to it. It's not. It's a permanent acquisition, a purchase, not a position. So it's not just conviction. It's you have done your due diligence and you have pulled the trigger, and there's no return label. There's no takesy backsies. Assume good morning, much a pleasure. Kill us. Yes, indeedy. Anything else that's interesting? Let's take a look real quick at the top list. No, that's about it. What's Cleaver coming in at market cap wise? Really? Maybe Cleaver is just the thing to buy. Jesus, what's with that market cap? That's insane for an 18% market cap. You just don't have the liquidity. That's the problem. If you go over to exchange and you hit a cow swap, mainnet, cleave. So, oof, it's not that bad. 5%. I don't know. 1.5. 36 chip. They want 42. You get 15% slippage on 5,000 cleave. You buy 5,000 cleave, you're in the top list. That's all right. Actually, this is pretty, it's considerable. There's a little bit of decay on the VE cleave. I should extend my lock real quick. 4 years. I should do this real quick. Yeah, I'll do it with you guys. Oop, let's lock that up. That's cool. Yeah, 1,000 cleave just sitting, convex just sitting there. That's cool. 18%, 5,080. Not bad. I think I'd like that. 15, 15%. Isn't that remarkable? With less than a mil market cap, and that's how much little liquidity there is. Where's the breakdown? There's where's the tokens here? There's 255,000 in ETH, less than 100 ETH. Of course. Who the hell is providing liquidity? I don't know who would want to sell Cleve at this market cap. I'd want to buy it. It's paying 18% of the money. Just the voting. It's another story. All right, let's wrap it up for today. I appreciate all of you on what should be the most popular time period for crypto investors. Everything is starting to have all stars align, and there's only remnants of people that are either involved or they've lost all their money trading and gambling. People should have spent the last years accumulating, executing rule number one: own more assets. There's no selling in that rule. Rule number one: own more assets. Did people get confused with rule number one and a rule that doesn't exist? Because if between 2022 and 2025 you executed rule number one, you have more assets than you did in 2022. You have more assets than you did in 2023. You have more assets now than you did in 2024. And now we're literally going over the things we've bought over the years and saying, okay, maybe. And we talked about Cleve today, talked about resupply, we talked about aerodrome, and these are all things that we've been talking about for years that we potentially added. Folks know that I have Cleve exposure. I have resupply exposure vis-a-vis Prisma. I don't have aerodrome exposure. We know the whole conversation we've talked about because I've opted for Velodrome, even though aerodrome pays much better, has much more cash flow. But why invest in aerodrome if resupply has a 64% rate of return? That's a heck of a rate of return with a pretty damn good looking chart. Pretty interesting chart, all things considered. The state of the market. How many people are remaining? I don't understand why. This should be the most where everyone's rushing in and like, oh my God, look how much this place has matured since 2020. It's almost as if folks don't remember 2020. It's almost like folks don't remember the doldrums of 2019. I guess they don't. I guess they don't. Okay. But we do. And I do. And I'll continue to tell the story. So thank you very much for joining me on a Tuesday, June 3rd. I wish you all a good one. I'll see you guys and gals later this week. 172 people made it to the end of the stream and are now a little bit more rational because of it. See you later. Until then, peace.